Hello children, how are you? Hope good. This is Shahab Khan and I'm back with my new video on my YouTube channel, Urban Learning Way UL Way. The scene 2 of Act 1 is coming to an end. In this scene, we have seen the nature, the thoughts and the motives behind the actions of some of the major characters of the play being revealed, right? So what did we study in the previous video? We had studied that the festivities of Lupercal were over and Caesar and company are returning, but on their way back, as deciphered or as noticed by Brutus, they look sad and angry. We don't know the reason behind this, but let's not worry because Casca is going to tell us all about it. All about it. He's going to reveal what happened exactly at the feast, which makes the group sad and angry. Okay, so let's start the text now. Casca, why there was a crown offered him, and being offered him, he put it by with the back of his hand, thus, and the people fell a shouting. Brutus, what was the second noise for? Casca, why, for that too. Cassius, they shouted thrice. What was the last cry for? Casca, why, for that too. Brutus, was the crown offered him thrice? Casca, Mary, wasn't, and he put it by thrice, every time gentler than other, and at every putting by, mine honest neighbors shouted. Cassius, who offered him the crown? Casca, why, Antony? Brutus, tell us the manner of it, gentle Casca. Well, Casca says, well, there was a crown offered and Caesar pushed it away with the back of his hand. He showed how he pushed it away with the back of his hand, and he said that people started shouting in disagreement and they started making a lot of noises. They shouted and they made noise and they roared. Brutus asks, what was the second noise for? Casca says, well, it was for the same thing. Cassius again asks, and there was a third noise heard, there was a third shout heard. Casca says, well, again it was for the same reason. Again for the same thing. He was offered the crown. Brutus just confirms whether the crown was offered to Caesar thrice. Casca says, yes. Casca says, yes, it was offered to him thrice, and he refused it 3 times. Every time more gentler than the previous time. Every time his manner of refusing the crown appeared as if he was more reluctant than the previous time. And every time that he refused the crown, the crowd roared in disapproval. They disagreed with what? They disliked what was happening. They wanted Caesar to take the crown, but Caesar refused it and they disliked it and they shouted out a lot. So Cassius asked, who offered the crown? Casca says, well, it was Antony who offered the crown. Brutus then asks Casca to describe the things in detail. Brutus asks Casca to explain the things in detail, how the things unfolded at the feast. Casca, I can well be hanged as tell the manner of it. It was mere foolery. I did not mark it. I saw Mark Antony offer him a crown, yet it was not a crown neither. It was one of those coronets, and as I told you, he put it by once, but for all that, to my thinking, he would have fain have had it. Then he offered it to him again, then he put it by again, but to my thinking, he was very loath to lay his fingers off it. And then he offered it the third time. He put it the third time, and still as he refused it, the rebelment shouted and clapped their chopped hands and threw up their sweaty nightcaps and uttered such a deal of a stinking breath because Caesar refused the crown that it had almost choked Caesar. For he swooned and fell down at it, and for mine own part, I durst not laugh for the fear of opening my lips and receiving the bad air. Cassius, but soft, I pray you, what did Caesar swoon? Casca, he fell down in the marketplace and foamed at mouth and was speechless. Brutus, 'tis very like he had the falling sickness. Cassius, no, Caesar hath it not, but you and I, and honest Casca, we have the falling sickness. So Casca says, in his own way described as sour by Cassius, that he would prefer to be hanged. He would rather be hanged than describe the events at the festivities, because it was all foolishness. And he said, as a matter of fact, he was totally indifferent to what was happening at the festivities because it was foolishness, and he did not pay much attention to it. He said that it was foolishness, high degree of foolishness, because even the crown that was offered to Caesar was not a crown befitting a ruler, a crown that should be worn by a ruler. It was a the kind, coronet kind, the kind that are worn by royal courtiers and ministers of king. That was the crown that was offered. And he said once the crown was offered to Caesar, he refused to accept it. But it appeared that he wanted to take it. Then he says, Casca, he says that Antony offered to him the crown again, and he refused it again. But he said, Casca says that it, in my opinion, in his view, it appeared as if Caesar wanted to take it. He did not want to take his hands away from it. Okay, and then it was offered to him the third time, and he refused it again. And people every time more gently than the previous time, and people shouted in disapproval, disagreement. They disliked what was happening, and they shouted and they clapped their dirty hands. Dirty hands here is important because it implies that the crowd consisted. It implied that the crowd consisted of people, of common people, laborers, manual workers. We had seen in the first scene also, cobblers and we had seen in the first scene cobblers and carpenters on the street. Okay, so the crowd consisted mostly of common folk, laborers, manual workers, and they were the support base of Caesar. This is what the dirty hand signifies. And he said people clapped their dirty hands, threw their sweaty nightcaps, and rode, and they rode, and this road, when they rode, they let out such a stinking breath, pooled together, that Caesar fainted. Casca said that he wanted to laugh at this tomfoolery, but did not do so for fear of taking the stinking air if he opened his mouth. You see the way Casca has described it. Okay, the way Casca describes things has been defined as sour by Cassius, which is different from others. And if you have noticed, you can see it why it is different. Like, see, Caesar, most of the historians, they think that Caesar had this, suffered from epilepsy. Okay, suffered from epilepsy, and he had quite a few Caesars. And there were a few historians. There were a few historians who are of the opinion that he had cardiac arrest, a couple of cardiac arrests before he died, before he was killed. Going by the majority opinion that he had epilepsy, you see how Casca describes it. His description of Caesar fainting is loathed with a little bit of sarcasm, a lot of crude humor, if you can notice it, and a lot of detachment. So that's Casca for you. Okay, and this scene which has been very vividly described by Casca is very important, as it highlights the point. It drives home the point that Caesar was popular with the masses, and the people did not like him refusing the crown. Right? People did not like him. They showed their disappointment. It was not that they hid their disappointment. They showed it in the way that they could. Cassius uses this as a case to highlight the fact that Caesar's ambition was dangerous for the Republic of Rome. Okay, so Cassius asks Casca, did Caesar actually fell down? Did he actually faint? Casca says he fell down in the marketplace and he foamed at the mouth and could not speak. Brutus says that, well, it is quite possible that he may have fallen down because he suffers from epilepsy, the falling sickness. This became an epic opportunity for Cassius to hammer home the point which he has been trying to emphasize throughout his dialogue with Brutus. And what was that? It was that they had become passive. They dare not oppose Caesar. They had become passive, and they fell in line with whatever Caesar wanted them to do, and they dare not oppose him. That was the kind of people they had become. And he said it was not Caesar who had the falling sickness. It was they. That is he, Brutus, Casca, another Roman noblemen, and people who had similar thoughts, who had the falling sickness, and not Caesar. Casca, I know not what you mean by that, but I am sure Caesar fell down. If the tag rag people did not clap him and hiss him according as he pleased and displeased them as they used to do the players in the theatre. I am no true man. Brutus, what said he when he came unto himself? Casca, marry before he fell down. When he perceived the common herd was glad he refused the crown, he plucked me up his doublet and offered them his throat to cut. And I had been a man of any occupation, if I would not have taken him at a word, I might go to hell among the rocks. And so he fell. When he came to himself again, he said, if he had done or said anything amiss, he desired their worships to think it was his infirmity. 3 or 4 benches where I stood cried, alas, good soul, and forgave him with all their hearts. But there is no heed to be taken of them. If Caesar had stabbed their mothers, they would have done no less. Casca says he did not understand what Cassius meant by what he said that they had falling sickness, but he said that he was sure that Caesar fell down. And he said that if the people did not booed him or jeered him or threw the proverbial eggs, rotten eggs and tomatoes, which no one actually does. If they did not do this when Caesar displeased them and cheered for him and clapped for him when he pleased them, then he was a liar not telling the truth. And what he meant by what Casca meant by this, he said that what was going on there was absolutely nonsense. He did not like it. It was theatrics and nothing else. In a theater, when the audience likes the antics or performance of a character, they clap for him, they cheer for him, and when they dislike him, they boo him, they hiss him, they jeer him. That is exactly what was going on here. So it was theatrics more than any. There was no substance in it, and according to Casca, it was very lowly, very distasteful. Okay, so Brutus asks, what did Caesar say when he woke up? Casca said that before he had fallen down, Caesar realized that the common people did not like his refusing the crown. They disliked the fact that he had refused the crown and they disapproved of it. They were in disagreement with this thing that Caesar had refused the crown. They wanted to take him. And on realization of this, what did Caesar do? He pulled open his jacket and asked them to cut his throat. Now Casca says, if he were a common man, he would have taught Caesar a lesson and taken him for his word and cut his throat. And Casca said, and then he fainted. And when he came back to his senses, he asked the people their forgiveness. And he said, if he had done or said anything wrong, it was due to his sickness. And he said that there were 3 or 4 women close to him, or where he was standing. There were 3 or 4 women who were there around him, and they said, alas, good soul. And they forgave him with their heart, totally forgave him. He said that there's no attention to be paid to this thing, because they were such creatures. If Caesar killed their mother and asked for forgiveness, they would have done the same. So we'll stop here. The scene 2 is coming to an end, and we'll move on to the next scene where the tension to the act will build up. You'll see omens and supernatural things, okay, which are very much an ingredient and part of Shakespeare's drama. So that's it, children. I hope you have understood the things well. If you have any doubts, you can post it in the comment section. Keep watching, keep liking, and keep subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching the video.